Hello, welcome to today's edition of Daf Yomi. We're going to start in the middle of Bekhorot Daf 13 Omad A, in the middle of the Omad, Perik 2. Halokeach ibo pavasa shanachri, hamocher lo af al pi she'ena rashai, vaha mistatef lo, vahamkaba mimenu, vahanotin lo b'kabbalah, Potter min habchora shnema b'Yisrael aval lo ba'achevim. With regard to one who purchases the fetus of a cow that belongs to a Gentile, halokeach ibo parosa shel nachri. In a case of one who purchases the fetus of a cow from a Gentile, or one who sells the fetus of his own cow to a Gentile, even though it's prohibited for him to do so, the sanctity of the firstborn offspring does not apply to the fetus when it is born. And that's the Rambam say for Kapon Hilchot Bekhorot 4:2. One who sells the fetus of his cow to a Gentile, even though it is not permitted to sell a large animal to a Gentile, one who enters into a partnership. So what's the footnote? Hamish Tatef. If a Gentile owns some of the Jew's animal or its offspring, even if it is less than 1,000th of a share, the sanctity of the firstborn offspring does not apply to the offspring. Rambam say for Kabbalah Bekhorot 4:1, Shulchan Aruch Yodei 323. With a Gentile with regard to a cow's fetus, one who receives a cow from a Gentile, Hamkaba Mimenu, if one receives an animal from a Gentile or tend to it in exchange for a partnership in its offspring, or if one entrusts his animal to a Gentile in exchange grants a Gentile partnership in its offspring, the sanctity of firstborn offspring does not apply to the offspring. Rambam say for Kabbalah Hilchot Bekhorot 4:3, Shulchan Aruch Yodei 323. To tend to it in exchange for a partnership in its offspring. One who gives his cow to a Gentile in receivership, so that the Gentile owns a share of the cow's offspring. In all of these cases, one is exempt from the obligation to redeem the firstborn offspring, as is stated, I sanctified to me all the firstborn of Israel, both man and animal, in Numbers 3:13, indicating that the mitzvah is incumbent upon the Jewish people, but not upon others. If the firstborn belongs even partially to a Gentile, the sanctity of firstborn does not apply to it. The Mishnah continues, the priest and the Levites, the Kohanim Halavim, firstborn kosher animals of priests and Levites have sanctity. A priest simply designates the firstborn for himself, while a Levite gives the firstborn to a priest, and that's in the Rambam Sefer Kabbalah Hilchot Bekhorot 147, Yodei 321, and the Levush there, obligated in the mitzvah. The animals have firstborn sanctity, as they were not exempted from the mitzvah of the male firstborn of a kosher animal, but they were exempted only from redemption of the firstborn son and from redemption of the firstborn donkey. The first chapter of this tractate began with halacha pertaining to a firstborn donkey. The Gemara asks, why does the Tan specifically teach halakha of the fetus of his donkey first, and only then teach halakha of the fetus of his cow? Let him first teach the halakha of the fetus of his cow, as it is a case of inherent sanctity, i.e. the animal cannot be redeemed on a sacrifice from the altar, and let him then teach halakha of the fetus of his donkey, as it is a case of sanctity that inherits its value. They said in the West Eretz Yisrael, if you wish, say that the halakha of the firstborn donkey were taught first since they are dear to the Tana, in according to the statement of Rabbi Chanina 5b, that donkeys helped the Jews when they departed from Egypt, as the Jews loaded their gold and silver on donkeys. And if you wish, say that these halachot were taught since the matters pertaining to a non-kosher animal are relatively few, and therefore the Tana completes its treatment and sets it aside. With regard to the Mishnah's discussion of sales involving Jews and Gentiles, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Namani says that Reish Lakish said in the name of Rabbi Shaya, in the case of a Jew who gave money to a Gentile to buy a Gentile's animal for him according to their laws, was the footnote, Yisrael Shenata Ma'osh Lagoy Mivhemto B'dinehem. A Jew who paid money to a Gentile in order to purchase the animal has acquired it even if he has not yet pulled it. And the same applies in the case where a Gentile paid money to a Jew, in according to the statement of Reish Lakish. Some commentators contend that the halacha is according to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan on the next Amud, that acquisition of a Gentile's property can be accomplished only through pulling, but in terms of the Mishnah Berurah, or Chaim 440. Accordingly, one who sells the pregnant animal to a Gentile must ensure that the Gentile has both paid for and pulled its shach. Some hold that the Gentile does not acquire it through pulling after the fact. I'm saying Kabbalah Hilchot Bekhorot 4:5, Shulchan Aruch Yodeh 326 in the comment of the Ramah and the Pita Teshuvah there. B'nei Nehem. Some explain that Rabbi Shai is saying that whenever a Jew purchases an animal from a Gentile, the transaction follows the Gentile laws. The ownership is transferred once the payment has been made, and that's from Rashi and the Rabbeinu Gershom Hagolah. So maintain that the reference is to a case in which the two parties stipulated that the sale would be subject to Gentile laws rather than the halacha. Tosfot Bava Batra 54b, according to the default convention that the transaction is performed according to halacha. Simaret al-Ghazi. This is apparently the opinion of the Rambam as well. And explained further on, even though the Jew did not pull the animal in the manner of a formal acquisition as required by halacha, he is legally acquired it, and the Jewish owner is obligated to give the animal's firstborn offspring to a priest. And in the case of a Gentile who gave money to a Jew to buy the Jew's animal from him according to their laws, even though the Gentile did not pull the animal, he has acquired it, and the Jew is therefore exempt from giving the animal's firstborn offspring to a priest. The Master said, in the case of a Jew who gave money to a Gentile to buy the Gentile's animal from him according to their laws, even though he did not pull the animal, he has legally acquired it, and the Jew is obligated to give the animal's firstborn to a priest. The Gemara asks, what is meant by according to their laws? If we say that it's referring to the laws relating to the purchase of a Gentile person as a slave, the law of purchasing Gentiles themselves rather than by methods by which Gentiles can acquire property, this must be based on the assumption that the halacha with regard to the purchase of a Gentile's animal is derived by the following a fortiori inference. If a Gentile's person is acquired by a Jew as a Canaanite slave through payment of money, as it is written, and you may make them an inheritance for your children after you to hold for an ancestral possession, Leviticus 25:46, the same halacha should apply to acquiring a Gentile's property. And Gemara elaborates. The verse thereby compares a Gentile slave to an ancestral possession, i.e. land, just as an ancestral possession is acquired by the transfer of money, as with a bill of sale or through taking possession, so too a Canaanite slave is acquired by the transfer of money. Eved Kanaani Nikne Bechesef. A Canaanite slave can be acquired with money, a bill of sale, taking possession, symbolic exchange, or pulling. Rambam Sefer Kinyan Hilchot Avodim 5:1, Shulchan Aruch Yodeh 267:23. And if this is the halacha with regard to a Gentile's person, it is not all the more so reasonable that a Gentile's property is acquired through the transfer of money. The Gemara rejects this conclusion. If so, then according to the halacha, it should be possible to acquire a Gentile slave even with a bill of sale or by taking possession, which is not so. The Gemara adds, and furthermore, the halacha pertaining to a Jew purchasing Jews from a Jew proves that the entire premise of the a fortiori inference is false, as it requires a Jewish person with money alone. The Gufei Kanei Le Bechesef. A Hebrew slave can be acquired through a bill of sale or payment. Rambam Sefer Kinyan Hilchot Avodim 2:1. If this is halacha with regard to a Gentile's person, it is not all the more so reasonable that the Gentile's property is acquired through the transfer of money. The Gemara rejects this conclusion. If so, then according to halacha, it should be possible to acquire a Gentile's property even with a bill of sale or by taking possession, which is not so. The Gemara adds, and furthermore, halacha pertaining to a Jew purchasing. I've said that, but he acquires his property only by pulling. It is therefore evident that the ability to acquire one's person with money does not indicate that his property can be purchased in the same manner. Rather, Abaye says that the term their laws is referring to their laws that the Torah prescribed for their methods of purchase by stating, or by of your counterpart's hand, Leviticus 25:14, which teaches that it is only by the hand of your counterpart, i.e. a Jew, that property is acquired by the formal act of acquisition of pulling. This indicates that acquiring property from the hand of a Gentile is accomplished through payment of money. They will raise an objection, but one can say that it should be inferred from the verse that one cannot purchase anything at all from the hand of a Gentile. The sage said in response, that cannot enter your mind, as there's a fortiori inference which indicates otherwise. If a Jew can purchase a Gentile person as a slave, it is not all the more so reasonable that he can purchase a Gentile's property. The Gemara raised another objection. But one can say that the verse teaches that whereas a Jew's property is acquired through pulling, property purchased from the hand of a Gentile is not acquired until two formal acts of acquisition have been performed, whereas pulling and payment of money. The sage said in response, isn't it indicated otherwise by an fortiori inference? If his person is acquired only through one acquisition, could it be that his property must be acquired through two acts? The Gemara further suggests, one can say that it is derived from the verse that one can acquire property from a Gentile either through this method of pulling or through that method of money. The Gemara explains the halacha derived from the phrase of your counterpart must be similar to an acquisition from your counterpart, just as from the hand of your counterpart is with one act, with pulling, so too that from the hand of a Gentile is also with one act with money. The Gemara discusses the statement of Rabbi Shaya. The master said, and a Gentile who gave money to a Jew to buy the Jew's animal from him according to their laws, even though the Gentile did not pull the animal, he has acquired it, and the Jew is therefore exempt from giving the animal's firstborn offering to a priest. The Gemara clarifies what is the meaning of according to their laws. If we say that it means according to the laws of the person of the Jew himself, i.e., the manner in which he purchases the person of a Jew with money, and it is reasonable to say so, as it may be derived through an fortiori inference. If a Gentile acquires the body of a Jew with money, as is written in that regard, from the money of his purchase in Leviticus 25:51, then with regard to the property of a Jew, it is not the more so reasonable that the Gentile can acquire it with money. This can be rejected, as the acquisition of a Jew from a Jew will prove that the inference is not valid, as the person of a Hebrew slave acquires one with money, while the property of a Jew can be acquired only by pulling. Rather, Abai said, that which it states that a Gentile purchases an animal with money according to their laws means, with the acts of acquisition that the Torah prescribed to Gentiles, the manner in which they acquire items of Jews, i.e. with money, as is stated, and if you sell a sale item to your counterpart in Leviticus 25:14, from which it may be inferred to your counterpart, i.e. a Jew, property is acquired by pulling, but property from the hand of a Gentile is acquired with money. The Gemara suggests, but say that the inference should be to a Gentile not at all, neither with money nor with pulling can a Gentile acquire an item from a Jew. The sages said in response, it is a fortiori inference to the contrary. If a Gentile can purchase a Jew's person as a slave, then is it not all the more so reasonable that he can purchase the Jew's property? The Gemara suggests, say and infer as follows. To your counterpart you sell with pulling, but to a Gentile you do not sell until two formal acts of acquisition have been performed, pulling and money. The sage said in response, isn't it an a fortiori inference to the contrary? If the person of a Jew is acquired with the act of acquisition, is it reasonable that his property is acquired with two acts? The Gemara further suggests, but say that the Gentile acquires property from a Jew either with this act of pulling or with that act of paying money. The Gemara explains the acquisition of the Gentile must be similar to the acquisition of your counterpart from which it is derived. We'll just finish off this sentence in the next onward. Just as property is acquired from your counterpart through only one act of acquisition, i.e. pulling, so too property is acquired from a Gentile only through one act of acquisition, i.e. payment of money. I'll finish the Omid there. Thank you for listening and wish you all the best and peace in Israel. Take care, bye.